Hello, I am Nikki Pickering, and thanks for tuning in to PokerNews.com. Today I had the chance to chat with PokerStars team pro Igor Kurganov about how he started in poker and how he prepares before a big day. Take a look.
I chose to play poker because I always loved all strategy games of any sort, actually. Like, since I was a little kid, I went to the super geeky math Olympiads when I was like 10 to 16, and the math camp, etc. It was a lot of fun, really. So I was always into like math, riddles, and still am. And poker is in the end the ultimate riddle of that type. Like, there's just an abnormal amount of possible situations you can run into, and you will not see the same deck of cards like in the same way shuffled ever, basically, ever. A couple of things changed in my life since I became a professional poker player. Probably most prevalent would be that I traveled way more than before. Before it was like 2 trips a year, which was great thanks to my parents, but afterwards it became 2 long stays at home, basically a year. And the thing you learn there, I think, is mostly that wherever you go, people still have the same like things they want and the things they fear, and that you really notice when you travel a lot how similar, therefore, like all humans are, and how precious the world itself is. It's so beautiful. Before I was a professional poker player, I was studying math in Munich, and I don't know, not really having my heart fully in it, so poker came at the right time, definitely. I really enjoy poker, and I want to continuously for the next few years put in like a decent amount of hours a week into poker, but I at the same time also have broadened my scope a little bit with rec charity specifically. I nowadays just spend way more time educating myself on different topics, which is kind of what you have to do if you want to create good output. You first need to put in good information. So, and it's really interesting, the type of stuff like I get to learn about it there. It's mostly new technologies, philosophy, tech, just in general is very, very interesting right now, obviously. What it takes to be a good poker player. Nowadays, a lot of time. You need to be dedicated to it. It still works to just have like a very good natural ability, like way of how math makes sense in your head. It's not like calculus, it's more like you can see 2 factors acting on one situation, you can weigh very well in between them intuitively, which is what people have who don't even have like a math ability. They sometimes just very well have like these intuitive, like, oh, this is maybe like that. Or just reading ability of people is also very, very good. I think the most important preparation is sleep. People go a little bit too soft on that, and so do I, but I think that the most important hours of any tournament are always the last ones of the day, because this is when the blinds are the highest, and this is when you're the most tired. So actually this is when you should jack up on the coffee if it's the last day of the tournament, or otherwise, well, just have slept properly before. Secrets to getting a good career as a poker player would probably involve one, first having to figure out what that means for anyone. So for me, it just meant first kind of like quietly doing my thing, which went well. And then when rec charity came along, I saw the value in being a bit more outspoken, and now and being more on media, and now with PokerStars, like adding on new products and new ways, and now I saw a lot of sense in collaborating with them, and so whatever you want to do at the time, I think you got to figure that out first. So I always was, to some degree, interested in charity, worked at a soup kitchen when I was young, etc. But I never wanted to fully commit myself, because it felt always a little bit like it's good, but not quite the right thing. And when in 2013 I got acquainted with the people who founded Raising for Effective Giving with us, the approach of effective altruism is what I learned then, and it just clicked instantly. And I was like absolutely stunned actually that it wasn't around for that long before, because it seems so obvious that you want to save more people with $1,000 rather than less. It's like, oh yeah, that seems very reasonable. Yeah, it is. And we should use numbers to determine these things. And people unfortunately often have this, oh, I don't want to put a number on lives or something like that. I don't want to do that either. We're not saying that this is the value of it. It's rather that this is the cost. And this is a true number that is being used everywhere. Like when, for example, in hospitals, there exists triage, which is when there is only a limited amount of resources, or human or like just other medicine, and they need to decide which patient to help first. Like that's just deciding between people. You got to do that sometimes. And in the same way, when emergency routes or like seat belts are accounted for, or like, well, this is how we need to do exit strategies, etc. Like they count on how much money do we invest for how many people we save in this and that scenario. Like this is being used everywhere, and not using it in other means just it would be very sad not to use it, because it would stand in the way of achieving more actually. So I think Raising for Effective Giving's role in general is mostly to spread the idea of effective altruism and to fundraise money for the organizations that do outstanding work in their fields. And more specifically within the poker world, it is to also spread the idea within already very numbers-minded people and kind of like catch that altruism in them, which we all have. Everyone loves seeing their relatives or friends receive a gift that we gave them. That's the same thing. It's just like a little bit like step further removed. Is it a friend? Is it an acquaintance? Is it someone you don't know but heard of? Is it someone you don't know at all but know that it matters to them? So I think we all have that in us.